Okay, thank you, Scott. Thank you for taking out some time to do this talk show with me today. And before we move forward, could you please briefly introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me here. I appreciate it, and it's great to meet all of you. So my name is Scott Duffy. I am the founder and CEO of the What Now Academy. We teach entrepreneurs what to do now and what's coming next to build a great business. I started my career a bajillion years ago working with best-selling author and speaker Tony Robbins,
Okay, wow.
and I moved on from training to tech and was played a key role in helping to launch a series of companies that became big media brands like CBSSports.com, NBC Internet, FoxSports.com, before starting and selling a company to Richard Branson's Virgin Group. And today, my mission is simple. It's to help change the world through entrepreneurship, to build an army of entrepreneurs that can help to identify and solve the biggest problems today. Because I think the solution to the biggest challenges out there, it's not in government, it's not in our politicians, it's like people like us that figure out what these things are and how we're going to tackle them and how we're going to finance them. And so I'm just here to support you and all of your listeners and to help to do that.
That's awesome. That's great. And it seems like you have your hands in multiple companies. Seems like you're invested little bit in multiple different types of ventures. What's the main thing that you're doing at the moment?
Well, my main focus is building out our academy at www.whatnow.academy,
Okay.
and really helping to provide education, mentorship, accountability, and other programming for entrepreneurs. And the idea is to help them understand how to optimize themselves as entrepreneurs, how to take products to market, how to grow and scale them once they're there and get to an exit. And so you can find all of that in the academy that we're building.
Okay, awesome. And what was the main motivation behind starting this academy?
Well, what really motivated me is two things. It was a couple things. One is, I have my background is in training, so in teaching, and also in tech and building for scale. And having spent the last 2-3 years kind of in what had become this training influencer space, everything about it just seems so inefficient. Selling one book to one person, selling one course to one person. And so I thought, how can we use technology to help scale and reach more people with a solution? Yeah. And I also thought, I've got such an amazing network of people. I don't want anything like the teaching's not coming from me. How can I assemble this great community of teachers to help build a community of entrepreneurs that support themselves? So that was kind of where the idea started, but then it shifted from there. And it shifted because I was taking a look and studying trends around the future of education in our country. And when you take a look at education in the United States, this system is totally broken. Okay. Going to a 4-year university is incredibly expensive. Yeah. Most students walk out with a ton of debt that they can never make up. And so what you're seeing is kind of the way students wanted the university model is broken. And when you study the future of education in our company, what you find is that big companies are starting to build their own schools. So imagine you want to be an engineer, and instead of spending $100,000 to go to Stanford or trying to get in there, imagine if you could go to Google Academy and you could get the best 4-year degree from Google. And imagine this, Google has more money than anyone. They give it to you for free. That is the shift that's starting to take place. And so what our academy does is we private label, we build these academies for big companies. Okay. And so that's what we're doing right now. Awesome. And how about your own educational background? Where did you go to school, and what was your major? Well, I went to school in San Diego, California, at the University of San Diego. And it was really interesting because I was there for 3 years. And in my third year, in my junior year, I was on a fun fraternity trip down in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
which was very common for the schools in San Diego at that time.
Okay.
And I got in a terrible car accident.
Oh.
I ended up with 2 brain hemorrhages,
Oh my
and I
God.
was forced to drop out of school. I never graduated.
Okay.
While I was recovering, I started listening to motivational books on tape.
Mm-hmm.
And before you know it, I had a library.
Mm-hmm.
And when I felt strong enough to get back, into the groove, I decided to go and finish college and intern for any of the people that I listened to.
Mm.
And the first person I applied to intern for was Tony Robbins, but instead I was offered a job. It was a million years ago. He first hired me, that company, when I was 20. He was 30. So
Mm-hmm.
we were kids.
Yeah.
But it really gave me a great, it's funny because one of the things I learned from Tony is that in life, you may have a plan. Your
Mm-hmm.
plan may be to go to college and graduate and then start a career. Your plan may be to start a family. Your plan may be to start a company and have that company succeed.
Yeah.
But there's so much in life that we don't control
Mm-hmm.
as entrepreneurs. Only 2 things we can: what we focus on and how we move. But what I learned from Tony is that we all have good days and bad days. We all have these good experiences and bad experiences, like my accident. The thing is, you don't know which is which
Mm-hmm.
until sometime way down the line, because you don't know what you'll make of the experience. And what I found being around incredible business people and mentors is one thing they have in common is this uncanny ability to take no matter what happens in their life and repackage it in a way that serves them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so what happens is, we get caught in developing these stories and associating all this meaning. Nothing has any meaning in life other than the meaning that we give it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's so awesome to see how these people are able to give meaning that serves them to whatever happens to help them move forward.
Okay, definitely. And how did you transition into the entrepreneur life? You mentioned you got a job, applied for Tony Robbins, and
Yeah.
what happened after that?
Well, it was actually my first kind of thing into entrepreneurship was when I was 18. So I
Okay.
was a freshman in college,
Mm-hmm.
and I got some great advice from a family member. And the family member said, on your first day of school,
Mm-hmm.
even before you go to class, go to the career counseling department and get to know and develop a relationship with the person that runs it.
Okay.
And line yourself up back in the day. Remember, I'm an old guy. Back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
the goal was to go to school and get an internship with
Yeah.
a big company over the summer. That's what we used to do.
Yeah.
So we thought that by developing this relationship, I'd be able to potentially have this person call me with more cool internship opportunities.
Yeah.
Well, I got to know them. And one day they called me and they said, we have something for you. You have got to come in right away. It's too amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking to myself, is
Yeah.
it Microsoft? Back then, is it IBM? Is it
Yeah.
FedEx? Who is it?
Mm-hmm.
So I get in there, I said, who is it? And they said this, AAA student painters.
Okay.
I'm like, what? Student painters? They said, no, AAA student painters. What he said to me is, he said, look, I think that working in a big company
Mm-hmm.
may not be the right thing for you. I think you're an entrepreneur.
Okay.
And he said, what I want you to do is I want you to go talk to these guys
Mm-hmm.
because they'll give you an opportunity to start and to run your own business.
Mm.
They'll teach you how to write a business plan. They'll teach you how to hire people. They'll teach you how to balance, your financial statements. Like, they'll teach you that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got my start as an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
opening up a branch for AAA student painters.
Okay.
And by the way, everything I did was a freaking disaster.
Okay.
Everything I did was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. This is what happens with entrepreneurs sometimes.
Yeah.
The cool thing about like a franchise
Mm-hmm.
is they give you a manual
Mm.
and they say, just do this, it works. But sometimes as entrepreneurs, we think we may have a better way.
Mm.
We start to reinvent, we do things different. So I started to do my way, and my way didn't work. And all I had to do was follow the plan.
Hmm.
And the plan worked. And so I think one of the things that I learned at that time was the importance of understanding how we learn and succeed. There's two ways.
Hmm.
The first is trial and error. You just go and you do it yourself. The problem with trial and error is it takes valuable time and money. The second is modeling. Find people or businesses doing what you want. Find out what they're doing, their beliefs, their strategies,
Hmm.
the syntax or order in which they do things. Do the same things to produce the same result.
Hmm.
And by doing that, as Tony Robbins used to say, you could turn decades of learning into days.
Hmm.
And so that's something that I highly encourage is to
Hmm.
find models out there for whatever it is that you want to build.
Okay.
Do the same thing to produce the same result.
Yeah, absolutely. And so for newcomers, who are
Mhm.
just starting out, what would you say is a basic skill set required to start a business?
Well, I think the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make, I
Hmm.
was talking to Gary Vaynerchuk about this a couple of years ago. I said, what do you think the biggest mistake is entrepreneurs make? And he laughed. And
Hmm.
he said, are you kidding me? There's so many. I
Yeah.
said, pick one.
Hmm.
He said, I think the number one mistake they make is they disrespect the market. I said, what does disrespect the market mean to you?
Hmm.
And it reminded me of of what I call a buyer blueprint. You see, what most, and I'll get back to Gary, what most entrepreneurs do
Hmm.
is they try to come up with an idea
Yeah.
and make the idea and then go sell the idea.
Hmm.
Okay. They do it backwards.
Yeah.
They think, as Gary would say, they disrespect the market. They think they know what's best or what the market wants.
Hmm.
The two most important questions you need to ask as an entrepreneur are this. Number one, what's most important to you about blank?
Hmm.
And the second question that nobody asks is what has to happen or how do you know you're getting what you want? Let me give you an example.
Hmm.
COVID hits last summer. I'm a total gym rat. Can't go to the gym anymore. A friend of mine calls me. He says, I'm gonna be an entrepreneur and I'm gonna create a product in
Hmm.
the fitness space so you can work out at home. He said, what would be most important to you about a fitness product you would buy for your home? My answer was that it's easy to use.
Yeah.
Now, most entrepreneurs take easy to use and they start there. They start to build what they think is easy to use.
Hmm.
But easy to use means a million different things to a million different people.
Yeah.
What's important is you ask the second question. What has to happen or how do you know it's easy to use? And what will happen is the buyer gives you what I call their buyer blueprint. They'll say, for example, like I did, I got to be able to access it on a mobile device. I use an iPhone, not an Android. I want to pay for it once, not every month, because I don't know if I'm going to like it or not, or if I'm going to use it, or what the market's going to look like, next month. And I give them this list. If you just build to that, then you're respecting the market. And then you have an opportunity to really have your thing land successfully when you go to market. So the number one skill set you need to have is to be a better listener and ask those two questions, listen to the answer and build to that.
Yeah, definitely. And again, for the newcomers, especially given this pandemic situation in 2021, how difficult is it to start a business?
Well, I think starting a business is easy. Starting a business successfully is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that if you are starting a business,
Hmm.
the number one thing to think about to make it easier is to do less.
Hmm.
So I think a big mistake entrepreneurs make is they focus on trying to do too many things at one time. I call this hammers and nails syndrome. So here's what I mean. If I were to give you one hammer and one nail, your job's simple. All you have to do is bring that hammer back and drive that nail into a piece of wood.
Yeah.
Like really nail that one business. Now, the odds are you may miss the first, the second, the third time, but eventually I'm going to bet on you. Eventually, I'm going to bet that you're going to nail it. So let's say give you two hammers
Hmm.
and two nails. You got a problem. Who's going to hold the nails?
Yeah.
Now, let's say you find somebody crazy enough to do it. I want you to
Mhm.
think about this. You have to bring both hammers back at the same time, and you have to strike at the same time.
Yeah.
Think about how hard that is. And the odds are you're going to miss the first, the second, the third time. You may never get it right. Let's say I give you 10 hammers and 10 nails.
Mm-hmm.
You see, the biggest mistake that entrepreneurs make is they try and do too many things at once.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would say is this: don't focus on everything, focus on one thing, really nail that one thing, and then move on to the next.
Mm-hmm.
How do you decide what comes next? You ask your customers, your users, you see what they want and build that, not what you think.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of a stack ranked list of like a project roadmap, and just start to listen to what feedback you get from your customers.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely. And regarding, your own company, so one, you mentioned that you tried something during when you were 18 and when you were in college. How about the first real company when you started? What was some of the failures or hurdles or difficulties that you had to go through?
Well, I think I'll just give you two quick examples. How's that? Because there's been so many.
Yeah.
So I think one of the companies that I worked on as an entrepreneur was a concert festival. And I worked for a year to develop the plan. I was in my early 20s. I started to raise capital. And I was very protective of my idea. One of the things that happens with entrepreneurs is they want to protect their idea. They're afraid somebody will steal it. Well, guess what? I showed it to somebody who was connected to a concert circuit. It's called Lollapalooza. And I showed him this thing, and he said, let's do it together. Let me show it to my partners. Never heard from him again. Took my plan, whatever. Year later, somebody told me about the thing he launched. It was my thing.
Oh, okay.
So, which by the way, ended up failing the way when they executed it.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's why that's important. I get super protective of my ideas. Fast forward 3 or 4 years. I'm in the Bay Area. I'm working for a company called quote.com. First company, or one of the first couple companies to get permission to put stock quotes on the World Wide Web. Our lead investor was a guy named Mike Moritz from Sequoia Capital, the gold standard, the icon of Silicon Valley. One of the, if not the first, some of the first money in Google, Yahoo, Cisco. The guy is Adonis. He's amazing, right? So I used to sit next to the conference room, and I would be involved in putting together part of our the monthly investor meetings that would happen in the office. And I remember one time having a chance to talk to, because I was concerned. When we started, there were like 2 competitors. And 3 months later, there were like 20. And I'll never forget this. 6 months later, there were 96. I remember the number of the day, 96. So I'm thinking to myself, does that mean I shouldn't get in this market? Does that mean I have to be protective? Does it? And I asked him, and you know what he said? Of those 96, maybe you guys are the one that actually executes. What I learned was I didn't have to hold on so tight to everything, because I knew I was the guy that would execute and drive something over the finish line, right? And so I think that was a big lesson for me. I think the other big lesson for me, just real quick, is to seek counsel, not opinion. So what happens is when we go out and we ask people for help, it's really important to know where what they're telling us is coming from. You see, there are people out there that may love you, could be your family, your friends. They love you, they want to support you, they want to be behind you, and you ask them a question on how to do something in your business, and they tell you what they think. It's just their opinion because they have no direct experience actually doing it. It is nothing more than a guess. Versus counsel. Counsel comes from people that have actually walked in the shoes that you want to walk in. They've done exactly what it is that you want to do, or they've come through what you need to go through. So seek counsel, not opinion. That was another big lesson for me.
And progressing through your career, what were some of the monumental successes that you came across?
Well, I think that I've been a part of some really cool companies that have gotten tremendous scale and had big financial exits. So I think I don't know that there's one of them in particular. What I would say though is that there is a common theme with the entrepreneurs that I've seen that have had these kinds of wins. Number one, they are absolutely totally 1,000% dedicated just seeing everybody on the team win. So whether it was through stock options or profit sharing, they created a way for everyone to win. And as a result, people stayed with them versus companies I saw that didn't do as well, where there was a great idea, we had a great team, and everybody left because the owner just tried to capture all the value for themselves. So there's a commitment to seeing everybody win. I think that's important. There's also a long-term outlook or a long-term view that the founders have. They're not just focused on bringing in money today or selling the company tomorrow. They're focused on having an impact over the long term.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. If you get greedy and if you think, you're the only one who's going to profit off of the company, then it's difficult to make the whole company succeed. Yeah, that's true.
Yes.
And could you share an important lesson that you learned from life?
Well, I think the most important lesson that I've learned in life is that there are what I call glass balls and silver balls.
Okay.
Like as entrepreneurs, we're always juggling. We're juggling our work, our family, our friends, our health, our spirituality, everything. And some balls are made of rubber. They're like rubber balls. And some are made of glass. Now, a rubber ball could be my business. If I get away from my business for a couple of weeks and I drop that ball, as soon as I reapply myself for a bit, it's going to just like bounce right back up and I'll catch it again and can start juggling. Some are like glass, like your health. If you neglect it for long enough, you drop it, it shatters. So you have to decide what are the glass balls and what are the rubber balls in your life and make sure that you prioritize in the right way.
Definitely. And what keeps you moving forward in life?
My kids.
That's awesome. That's great. Do you read books?
I do.
Okay. What's your favorite book and why?
I think I have different favorites based on different kind of times and where I am in life. Right now I'm reading, see on my desk, I've got Prosper from Randy Garn. I highly recommend this book. Phenomenal book. Prosper. In the box over here, I just got Scott Galloway's Post-COVID. Post-COVID is an amazing book. It shares the biggest opportunities in business that have been created as a result of this pandemic. I highly recommend the read.
Oh, that's really interesting. I think I'll give it a read sometime.
Awesome.
And what's the best and worst part of running a company?
I think that the best part of running a company is the ability that you have as a leader to make an impact, to make an impact on your team, on their families, on their families' families, on your customers. I think that's the best part. I think that the worst part, or maybe the hardest part, is how being an entrepreneur touches every part of your life. And so it's not like when you're a 9-to-5er, you get to come home and you get to turn your work off. You don't get to turn it off in the same way. And that is at least until you have a team that you've brought in that can take over running the day-to-day of the business. So I think that's the hardest part, and where many entrepreneurs struggle.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I understand, you're working most of the time. So, but what do you do when you're not working?
I exercise like crazy. I meditate like crazy. I stay close to my kids. And those are my 3 favorite things.
Oh, that's a really, really healthy lifestyle. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
And for 2021, do you have a pledge?
My goal is to help change the world through entrepreneurship. My pledge is every single day to stay connected to that truth and to empower others, to empower others, to empower others to leave this world better for my kids.
Okay, that's awesome. So I'm going to ask you some short rapid fire questions now. So keep your answers short. And if you come across any question you don't want to answer, just say skip and I'll move on to the next one.
Okay.
Okay. Are you an Android person or an iPhone person?
iPhone.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
What's the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning?
Meditate.
Oh, that's great. 3 things no one knows about you.
I once walked across 37 feet of burning hot coals.
Oh my God.
Let's see. I love reading country Western stories to go to sleep. And And Jackson Hole is one of my favorite places on the planet.
Okay, that's great. That burning coal thing that's crazy. What's the craziest thing someone has done for you?
When I was going through a difficult time, the roughest time in my life,
Mm-hmm.
I had a mentor named Dave Meltzer that either made me call him or he called me every single day for a year
Mm-hmm.
to help me turn my shit around.
Oh, that's really sweet of him. That's
It
nice.
was the most amazing thing that one of the most amazing things anyone's ever done for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What's the one thing that you would like to change about yourself?
I'd like to become, I think, a little bit more consistent with regard to some of my routines.
Okay. What's your spirit animal?
Elephant.
Okay, that's very unique. A
What
rumor about you that you wish were true.
about me that I wish were true?
A rumor about you that you wish were true.
I'm sorry, say one more time.
A rumor.
Oh, a rumor about me that I
Yeah.
wish were true. Oh my goodness. that I helped empower
Mm-hmm.
millions of people to
Mm-hmm.
live the life of their dream through entrepreneurship.
Oh, that's a really good answer. I like that one. That's
Mm.
great. What's the easiest way to piss you off?
Easiest way to piss me off
Mm-hmm.
is to, wow, that's a good question. It's really hard to piss me off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the easiest way to piss me off is to not be truthful.
Mm. I can relate with that.
Mhm.
What's the one thing that you own that you wish you didn't?
Well, my daughters have created this system that I'm looking at right now for how they get rewarded for doing chores.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And at the bottom, there's some candy that they put in there.
Okay.
The one thing that I wish I didn't own right now is that cart, because it's right next to my desk and I have to look at it right now and it makes me want to go eat it.
Yeah. It's so tempting. I can understand that. What's the thing that you're most afraid of?
What's the thing that I'm the most afraid of? Um, what am I afraid of? I mean, I'm not afraid to fail. I'm not afraid to that stuff. I'm
Um,
probably most I'm probably most afraid right now of the long-term impact
mhm.
that stay at home and stay out of school is going to have on my kids.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
What's the most interesting thing that you have in your purse or wallet?
Whew. I don't really keep, I'm so digital. I don't really
Uh-huh.
keep a lot on me. So I don't really think I have okay. I give a lot to the Living Desert,
Mm-hmm.
which is it's a animal preserve and a zoo type of thing,
Mm-hmm.
ranked in the 1% of zoos in America,
Mm-hmm.
in Palm Desert, California. So I have my membership card in there.
Oh, that's really nice. That's so
Yeah.
kind. And according to you, what new technology will transform the future?
Educational technology.
Okay.
Yeah. I think there'll be some things, and I don't really know if it's the tech itself, like the IP or the code behind it, because
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's becoming a lot less important. I remember, 10 years ago, if I was starting a tech firm, a
Mm-hmm.
big part of the value that we would sell would be the IP,
Yeah.
the code. Today there's so many great platforms out there that you can build on top of.
Mm-hmm.
At least for what I do, it's more about the customers.
Yeah.
So when I think about your question, what I think about is, in what new and unique ways are we going to be able to engage and create stickiness with people who are interacting with educational content?
Yeah.
How do
Okay.
you teach a lesson in 8 seconds?
Mm-hmm.
How do you get a person to watch for 8 minutes? Those are the types of things I think about every day.
Mm. That's nice. And okay, so now you have to rate yourself from 1 to 10 on the following. 1 being the lowest, 10 being the highest. First one is quick learner.
Is what?
Quick learner.
Oh, a 9,
Okay. Book enthusiast.
a 4,
Okay. As a leader.
an 8, 9,
Okay. As a CEO.
a 6.
Okay. As a friend.
As a what?
As a friend.
A
A
9.
friend. Okay. 9. Okay. Got it. Okay, great. So with that, we have reached the end of this interview. And before I let
Good.
you go, I have one last question for you.
Yes.
Could you introduce me to three other business owners or CEOs or any uh, person at C level who might be interested and in doing an interview with me? And you don't have to
Absolutely.
put the names right now. You can reach out to me later on LinkedIn or email. That's up to you.
Absolutely.
Okay, sounds great. So thanks, Scott. Thank you for doing this interview with me today. And I know that you're running late. Sorry for, taking up so much of your time. But still, thanks for sharing your story, your background, glimpses of your life that people didn't know and might come to know after viewing this interview, especially that burning coal thing, walking on the top of that. That was nobody has, I don't think, done that, or said that on this interview series before.
And for people that want to stay connected, you can find me on social media across all platforms at Scott Duffy Media,
Mhm.
at Scott Duffy Media, or you can visit my website at www.scottduffy.com, or you can apply to become a part of our academy at www.whatnow.academy, not .com, whatnow.academy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'll put those links in the description so that it's easier for
Awesome.
people to reach out to you. That's
Awesome.
great.
Thank you
Okay,
so
Scott.
much. I appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for doing this interview with me.
All righty. Take
Take care.
care.
Bye.